I recently became a mom to a 3- and 5-year-old boy. And the 5-year-old just started kindergarten last week. We are trying to raise them in a spiritual home with these values. They're very excited about life. The 5-year-old was extremely excited to start kindergarten.
What are these values?
To look within themselves, to we teach them to meditate.
Oh, yeah. But what are the values?
To be happy, to live a joyful life.
The values are, life is fun, it's supposed to work out well for you, and is.
Yes.
Those are the values.
Right. And one of the ways we've taught them is when you need to calm your mind, to sit and take a few breaths, and we term it meditation. The 5-year-old came home from school, and I was a public school, inner city school teacher here in San Diego, so I'm familiar with the school system. I no longer do that. It didn't align with my values. And so I have a little bias there. But when the 5-year-old came home from his first week of school, he had a not so nice note from the kindergarten teacher. And he sat down with me for a little snack after school, and he said, I want to tell you something. Meditation is secret for our family. We can only talk about it in our family. We have to keep it a secret. I'm torn because I feel I want to know Abraham's view on the public school system today. We're to the point where we are contemplating moving to a town that has a Waldorf type school, somewhere where we can put them in a school that is more in alignment with.
What happened? Were you told what happened?
I'm going to go Monday and talk to the teacher, but
we don't want to hear the teacher's point of view.
What happened?
What did your child tell you?
Well, first of all, they have 36 kindergartners in the classroom.
Yes.
And from what the note said and what was talking out of turn, not raising the hand, not keeping hands and feet to themselves, he's very affectionate. He likes to give hugs, and so getting in the other kid's space. But what do you think
happened that made him come home and talk about meditation being a secret?
I think when the teacher probably was telling him to calm down and to, disciplining him, he probably said, I need to go meditate, or can I go take and maybe the wording, if he said I need to have a personal time out or something, but when he used the word meditation, I think was the...
Well, give him some other words. In other words, say to him, when I suggest that you meditate, what I really mean is just stop and count to 10. In other words, just for a little bit of time, in order to distract yourself from what's causing the problem, count to 10, and during the process of thinking about counting to 10, you will distract yourself from the problem and it will dissipate.
Right.
In other words, what you're getting at here, and we think it's really a conversation worth having, and it's a thing that a lot of people worry about. The first thing that Tracy said, she was 14 when Jerry and Esther met Abraham. And when they introduced the idea of this to Tracy, the first thing she said was, don't go on Oprah. Because she didn't want the embarrassment of having to explain her mother to her friends. So that's what your child is already bumping up against. In other words, our family have these things that we know that are meaningful to us, that feel good to us, but when we talk about them with people who don't understand, then not only do they not feel good to them, but they make sure that they don't feel good to us. And so we don't want you to pull your child out of this environment and put him into a more feathered nest. What would be so much more beneficial for him is to be able to be in any environment and be so in alignment with who he is that he can cope with whatever is going on around him. In other words, you're not wanting to teach him that your family values and the things that you talk about are the right way and what they're doing is the wrong way, even if that's what they're trying to teach him. You don't want to try to teach the reverse of that. You're wanting to teach him that all is well and that diversity is a good thing and that there are a lot of people that think a lot of different ways. And eventually what you want to help him to understand is that a really successful friend, a really successful teacher is someone who sort of gets where the other guy is and lets them be there and doesn't ruffle their feathers while he's still able to stand right where he's standing. So what we would say if your child said that to us and we were standing in physical form hearing it, we would say, boy, you are so smart. Did you ever figure that out? That doesn't mean that we don't know the value of it. It just means we don't try to push it onto others who don't understand it in the way that we do. And it's not because we're right and they're wrong. This is just what feels best to us, and whatever they're doing may very well feel best to them. And then it's all right. In other words, you want to soothe the rift between you and everyone else, not inflame it, you see. Words don't teach. It's life experience that teaches. This is the early experiences helping him to put things into his vibrational escrow. His future experience will be benefited dramatically by this contrasting experience. This is helping him know who he is. He has the advantage of being someone who is consciously aware of source and of the value of meditation and tuning into who he is. He knows what it feels like to be in alignment, and he consciously knows what it feels like not to be in alignment. This is wonderful contrast that's filling his escrow with things that will serve him all of his life. It's not my job to pave the way for him. It's my job to connect myself as best I can with who I really am. Feels better, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can see a lot of my own stuff of feeling like kind of the creativity and things were bred out of me by a system that's so focused on testing and test scores and not wanting that for him.
Maybe, but you see, there's nothing that could happen in any environment that is so detrimental. In other words, really, we say this in the most powerful way that we can say it. None of you, from your non-physical perspective, said, I'll come forth, but clean it all up before I get there. Not one of you said, fix the school system and then I'll go to school. Not one of you said that. Not one of you. And we know there are environments that are more conducive to feeling better right now. In other words, there are always environments that feel better, but this art of allowing isn't about ferreting out the best environments and then finding a way of taking us and all of our loved ones to that safe environment. The art of allowing is being vibrationally in control of where we are, so that no matter where we stand, the universe has to deliver to us stuff that matches that. It's vibrational control you want for yourself and that you want to teach to your children, not physical control, not controlling the school system, not controlling the teacher. It's vibrational control, because when you're tuned into who you are, you can stand anywhere and have a wonderful moment. In other words, someone who feels secure visiting with an insecure teacher doesn't feel insecure. Mm-hmm. When you know, it's like a lot of those kids that are labeled most not behaving are the ones that laugh when the teacher has a meltdown. She's having a bad day. And she thinks I should do something to fix it. But I've lived long enough, I'm 6, to know that I can't do anything to fix it. So this is just funny to me. She needs to chill out. And then she writes something really nasty and sends it on a note home. And you support her? We know you don't, but right. Many parents do. Well, you need to do something to help your teacher who's having a meltdown not have a meltdown. And your child wants to say, she's going to have a meltdown no matter what I do. It didn't have anything to do with me. She wasn't tuned into who she is. She's feeling insecure. She's not paid enough. Her boyfriend left her. She's not even mad at me. She's just taking it out on me. Mom, don't side with her.
But yet we tell them to, listen to the teacher, follow the rules. I mean, that's how the system is. And it's a very strict system as far as, she's trying to have control. I realize she doesn't. But so you say, just be free, baby.
So you say, be respectful and listen to the teacher and do your best to learn. And so your child comes home and tells you what happened. So now there's more contrast for you to talk about. Now you can say something like, well, I've never said to you that the teacher is always right. Say, it's like playing in a hockey game or playing in any game. There are rules that everybody agrees that they're going to play in. And sometimes it's fun, even though you'd like the rules to be different, especially when sometimes the rule works against you. You'd like the rule to be different, but in the long run, it's better that you have some framework that you all live within, and you can learn to have a really good time within any framework or any rules. That's the life message that you're most wanting to give your child. Not that we need to feather the nest so that you can be happy, but that you can stand in any place and do just fine.
Yeah.
And the happier you are, the better it will go for you. That's really a wonderful thing to get across. The happier you are, the better it will go to you. You'll fly under the radar of every witch-like teacher. If you are tuned in, tapped in, turned on, you just will. Okay. Just like you can be speeding down the highway at 85 miles an hour and won't be the one that gets the ticket if you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on. But if you feel guilty,
right,
they'll nail you, you see.
Yeah.
There are so many rules. We don't want you to teach your children to be defiant of rules. We want you to teach your children to be aware of larger laws.
Okay.
The law of attraction and the law of allowing. In other words, the vibrational rules and laws that the universe is moving because of. If they can get into sync with those. And so a child comes home and is upset and has a note. And you want to get your bearings before you have any conversation about it. And you want to remember first and foremost what your dominant intention is not to make this child wrong. In other words, even if he's broken every rule, even if he got in a lot of trouble at school, your role right now with your child is helping him to connect with who he is, not poke at him until he gets further disconnected. The school is disconnecting him and filling his vibrational escrow full of all kinds of wonderful stuff. Your role as his mentor and loving mother and teacher is to call him back into alignment with who he really is. And if you always remember that that's your intention when you are visiting with him on any subject, then what to do next will be easy for you. But first, you can't lose your sense of humor in it. In other words, you've got to stand in a place of knowing that all is well with him before you can even begin to approach him from the standpoint of bringing him into alignment. You can't call him toward his alignment, to closing his gap, if your gap is wide open. You can't be feeling insecure and remembering what the school system was like and remembering what it was like for you. Then you're going to empathize with all of his struggle. You've got to bring yourself into alignment and remember that he came forth knowing that the contrast would be there and wanting early exposure to it in order to put all kinds of good stuff into his vibrational escrow. So then, from your place of being tuned in about this and in alignment, then you say to him, you know, I just can't believe that anything happened here other than that you were misunderstood. Because I know who you are. I know you always mean well, and I know that you are kind, and I know that you don't make fun of anyone, and I know that you just want to add value wherever you are. So I'm sure that this was just a misunderstanding. And you know what? I don't even need to hear your teacher's version of this, because I've heard your version of it, and your version of it gives me the whole story. In other words, you love him back into alignment. We promise you a conversation like that would bring him much more into alignment and cause much less misbehavior later than if you punish him for something that the teacher said he did that he doesn't even believe happened in that way. That's why he comes home saying, we got to keep our way of life a secret because they don't get it, you see. And what you want to say to him is, there are a lot of people that don't get it, but it doesn't mean that just because they don't understand law of attraction doesn't mean it isn't responding to them. It happens to everyone. We're just learning to work with it in a way that's beneficial to us. And we want to help others do it too. Make a list of things you like about your teacher and see if you can't help her feel better tomorrow. If he would make a list of things that he does like about his teacher, even if he struggles a little bit to do it, she will feel better tomorrow, and he will be able to see the effect that his making that list has had upon him. And then he'll be a conscious uplifter, which is who he really is, you see. There is not one child in any school system that was born to be a troublemaker. And there's not one child in any school system who really wants to be a troublemaker. But what they want is freedom from the oppression that they can feel with every fiber of their being is not accurate, is not appropriate. They just want freedom, you see. Mm-hmm. And when you show them that they can feel free, even when the teacher doesn't know they are, then problem is solved. When you feel free, just because somebody else doesn't know you're free, you don't feel like you need to push against them. It's only when you don't feel free that you feel like you have to fight against the system, you see. Mm-hmm. The system isn't the problem. Alignment or not alignment is the problem.
Thank you.
Yes.